We have a interesting thing that happens as humans. We have these moments of suffering, and we have good times. We have bad times. Kind of sounds like a song. I think that was Led Zeppelin. Um, Generally, let's say in a spiritual context, we look at suffering and why we suffer, and many of us will agree with the Buddhist terminology, the Buddhist explanation of our suffering and how it comes from our desires to have more of this, or our desires to have less of this other thing. So we have this pleasure-pain kind of thing happen. We want more things that cause pleasure, and we want less things that cause pain for us, and for others too. If somebody else is suffering, we suffer in many respects. But we can take another, maybe a little deeper look at where the suffering comes from. And when we do, we realize that it's our relationship with the self and how the self actually the self, us, wants more of this and less of that. This pleasure-pain thing that I just mentioned. So we could say that is the self and our identification with the self, our belief that this self is the one that's suffering. So there's a separation between us and the other being everything out there, everything out in the outer world. And that's actually where the non-duality aspect comes from, not two, the division between self and other. But people inevitably say that there is a self. They slap themselves and they say, I know I'm experiencing this. This is my experience. I know that these are experiences. I can see, I can hear, I can smell, I can taste, I can think, and so it comes back to identification with experiences. Experiences is life, right? We have one experience after another. Anyway, it seems like we do. It seems like we have all these experiences, and we can take them and put them in our little experience bank and put them in the bank and say, these are my experiences. So all of a sudden I have a story about all these experiences. But how do we get a closer view of this? Because if we can not identify with experiences, perhaps we can have less identification with the self, since we believe these experiences to be the self. If we have an experience, let's just take one single experience, which is not really true, but let's just do it for a moment here. If we have an experience, let's say take this cell phone, and in the form of causes and conditions, okay? The cause is that this cell phone is here, and then I drop it, I let go of it, and it falls down. Or it causes an effect, or the cause is in the condition. This is the cause, and this is the effect, or the result. Let's just call it causes and effects, cause and effect. So we could say that that is our experience, that we experienced that. So we could put that in our experience bank, that the cell phone was here and then now it's here, wherever it fell, just by gravity. But when we take a look at that experience, we can kind of understand that that is not really our experience, right? We can kind of see that that's just a part of life. It's just a part of living to have these things happen. And we don't want to call them ours, but yet we do. We say, this is my life. These are the things that I see, I smell, I hear, I taste, and I think. But let's try to, this experience of putting the phone up here and dropping it, cause and effect, experience, we can't find a beginning to that experience. We can't find a place where that actually started. We started talking about this experience before it happened. Even before that, um, many things came into play. There's no way that we can actually find the beginning of this experience where this phone was here and now it's here. So, and the same result, and the same token of this is that we can't find an end for it either. So there's no beginning to this experience, and there is no end to it. So how could we possibly say that this is our experience? And everything that we consider to be our experience, whether it's our birth or our marriage or our divorce or our life, none of these has an absolute beginning or an end. And now some of you could say, well, wait a minute, we were born and then we die, right? Then that's our experience of life. When we look at the process of birth, we could say, well, is it when we came out of the womb? Is it when the sperm and the egg came together? And this is all debatable within areas of when life actually starts. But we can still back that up. When our parents met, they courted and then they got together. In other words, they were dating and then they had a baby, right? They were dating, then they got married, then they had a baby. But we can even back that up further. I mean, they spent their lives up to that point, and they go through the same process that we go through. So, in other words, what I'm trying to say, without being too redundant, is that these experiences have no beginning and no end. They are not even experiences. They're one continual experience, like the play of life. There's no way that we can call them ours. There's no way that we can call any of this ours. It doesn't lay out on a plate where we could say this is our experience. If we look at every single experience, we cannot find a beginning or an end. And I actually challenge anybody to do that. So without these experiences where we consider this to be our life, our experience, if there's no beginning and no end, no way to claim it to be ours, this helps soften this identification with self. So there is seeing, there's hearing, there's smelling, there's tasting, there's thinking, but there's absolutely nobody behind any of this. There's no one behind these experiences because these experiences are not singular. It's one play of life. It seems to be the simplest label I can put on this experience is life. And it's nothing that we can claim our own. I think when we take a look at this view in this way, it will ease any kind of difficulties we have. It feels like there's a raincoat and everything just kind of slides off. Or an umbrella that does not allow any of these experiences to get sticky. So there's no stories, there's no problems, there's no suffering, because they're not ours, because there's nobody to hang on to these things.